And Matt Keane presents himself as the greatest. Everywhere you look, he's there. He's got an opinion on everything. But as you said in the speech, yes, he is the greatest spender, the greatest public debt accumulator, the greatest waste of taxpayers' money in New South Wales history. So how will anyone down the track, Mark, be able to address the structural problems that have now been built into this extravagant spending?
Well, the structural problem is because foolishly Perrottet and Keane are taking on the funding of federal responsibilities. They're spending $10 billion on green energy programs, supposedly to bring down the globe's temperature under climate change. Well, climate change is obviously an international issue. It shouldn't be discharged by a provincial government. It should be the Australian government that does something, if anything at all.
That's
so they're spending $10 billion on green energy that's unnecessary. They're now taking over the federal responsibility of fee relief for long day childcare and also subsidising the construction of childcare centres, which has always been done out of Canberra. So these are major structural impediments that are being built into the New South Wales government. And Alan, you'd have to fear they'll never be removed.
No, quite. I mean, 800 million, what was that for? In an Aboriginal program, handing it over to the activist who wrecked the Walgett Community College.
Well, this is under the banner of self-determination. You might as well wash the money down the drain. Self-determination is a nice slogan, but in practice, they handed the money over to someone who'd been in charge of Walgett Community College, the high school at Walgett in Western New South Wales, where families tragically are leaving Walgett to get away from the school, which is run down by chaos and violence. And some of the parents, including Indigenous, are busing their children to Lightning Ridge an hour away to get away from the violence at Walgett. Now, self-determination should only operate if there's a guarantee that the taxpayers' money, where people work very hard to pay that money, can be spent efficiently, rather than the feel-good politics of just handing it over and effectively watching it go down the drain.
And then hundreds of millions of dollars on arts, culture and multicultural responsibilities. They're normally discharged out of Canberra.
Yeah, this is the huge structural problem. Once you start doing these things, it's very hard, and you know, there's goodies handed out to the electorate. There's not many politicians who reverse that, but we need to reverse this level of, well, it's kind of voluntary cost shifting. The normal debate is that states would complain, oh, the federal government's shifting all its costs onto us. Keane has put his hand up. He's kamikaze Keane.
We'll do it.
He's volunteered
we'll get hairs
to
on our
fund
chest.
the Canberra commitments, and this will take decades, if ever, to get them out of the budget.
And those household subsidy programs that aren't means tested.
Yeah, there's some 27 of them that haven't got a means test. So all these vouchers you hear about, vouchers for this, that and the other thing in New South Wales, millionaires qualify for them, which is plainly wrong. That's an obvious area of cost savings to have means testing in place. And why have we got scores and scores of these handouts to people? We've been through in Australia, with one understandable exception, 30 years of economic growth. A lot of people have done okay, some are battling, but these programs need to be targeted rather than the extravagance of Macquarie Street becoming sort of a transfer payment organisation.
Just before you go, it is a vote-buying document. Will it buy votes?
Well, no, I don't think it does buy votes, for the reason that people aren't silly. They don't recognise today's Liberal Party. You hear lots of talk about the modern Liberal or the woke Liberal in tune with values on the North Shore of Sydney. People have their strongest impression, the most favourable impression, I can say this from personal experience, their most favourable impression of the Liberal Party from the Howard Costello legacy of surplus budgets paying down debt. And they don't recognise the Liberal Party. The Liberals used to stand for surplus budgets, Alan, and putting jobs ahead of the environment. Now it's the other way. They stand for big, big debt and deficit budgets and putting climate change concerns, where Australia really can't achieve anything, ahead of job creation. So when the electorate doesn't recognise you, of course, they go somewhere else. Why wouldn't they?